I'm Emma Carter, 28, divorced single mother, waitress in New York. I asked my sister for a loan of $48,000 to save my apartment from foreclosure and to treat my child's illness, but she humiliated me and kicked me out of the house. From that humiliation, I was determined to pick myself up, accidentally entering the online fashion industry, directly confronting her company. When I succeeded, I had the opportunity to kick her down just like she did to me. But I had to choose between cruel revenge and ending the toxic family cycle. If you love real-life stories, chilling revenge, and dark family secrets, hit that subscribe button. Now, you're about to step into a world where the truth is far more terrifying than fiction. I still remember the smell of Olivia's house, white roses, bergamot candles, and something else, something expensive. You can't quite name, as if money itself had a scent. Whenever I stepped inside that marble foyer, I always felt like I was trespassing into a life that should have been mine but somehow wasn't tonight. Though I wasn't here to compare lives or swallow envy. I was here because I didn't have a choice. I needed $48,000. 48,000 to keep my son and me from losing our home. 48,000 to pay off the hospital debt that kept multiplying like it enjoyed, watching me drown. I told myself I wasn't ashamed, that I could do this, that sisters were supposed to help each other. But the truth was pulsing in my throat long before I rang the doorbell. I was terrified. When the door opened, Olivia stood there in a silk emerald dress that hugged her like it was custom made for her body, and knowing her, it probably was. She blinked when she saw me. The way people blink at something unexpected and slightly inconvenient. Emma, I didn't know you were coming tonight. I had texted her twice. She just didn't bother to respond. Yeah, I said, I really need to talk to you. Her eyes flicked down to the thrift store blazer I'd worn to make myself look presentable, then back to my face. Well, we're having people over. A dinner party. Nick invited some investors. Investors. Of course, her husband. The man who wore watches worth more than my yearly salary loved parading their wealth whenever possible. I won't stay long, I promised. Olivia hesitated for half a second, then stepped aside. Fine. But don't make a scene as if I'd ever dare. The house was buzzing with low laughter and clinking glasses. I could see perfectly straight teeth, glittering jewelry designer suits. Everyone looked polished and content, like they lived in some glossy magazine world where nothing bad ever happened. My sister introduced me quickly, too quickly to the guests, before guiding me to the kitchen. Even the kitchen looked like it didn't want me there. Stainless steel, pristine white counters, not a speck of dust. I stood there like a stain. So she said, crossing her arms, "What's going on?" Her tone made something in my stomach fold. This was the woman who used to braid my hair for school and sneak me candy when Mom wasn't looking. But that version of Olivia felt like a dream. I must have invented because the woman standing before me now looked carved out of cold marble. I forced myself to breathe, live. I need help. I lost hours at the diner and the rent's behind, and the hospital sent another notice. They're threatening to take legal action if I don't pay soon. Something flickered across her face, something almost like sympathy, but it disappeared so fast I wondered if I'd imagined it. How much she asked? 48,000. Her eyebrows shot up. Jesus, Emma, 48. I know it's a lot, I know, but I swear I'll pay it back. I can do a payment plan, 100 a week or whatever you want, once I pick up more shifts. Emma, she interrupted, her voice sharp. Be realistic. You make what, 30,000 a year, maybe? And you want to borrow almost 50. I'm trying, I said quietly. I'm doing everything I can, but I'm out of time. Olivia exhaled through her nose, shaking her head. I can't just give you that kind of money. Nick and I have a lot going on. We're expanding the brand. We're investing. You have 3 investment properties, I reminded her before I could stop myself. And a summer house. And a boat. Olivia, please. My son. What about your son, Emma? She snapped. You're the one who chose to have a kid with a man who ran off. You're the one who chose to work low-pay jobs instead of going back to school. I told you years ago, you were making bad decisions, but you never listened. Her words were knives delivered with precision. I swallowed hard. I'm not asking for charity. I'm asking for help from my sister. And I'm telling you, I can't. She said, I'm not your bank. My throat tightened. Liv, please. We're going to lose our home. Her jaw clenched. That's not my responsibility. For a moment, silence filled the kitchen, heavy and suffocating. I felt myself shrinking, folding inward like paper under heat. I looked at her, really looked the perfect hair, the perfect nails, the perfect life. And I knew she saw me as the opposite. Messy, broken, inconvenient. Something hot stung behind my eyes. I didn't come here to be humiliated, I whispered. You came here asking for $48,000, she replied. What did you expect? Before I could answer, her husband Nick walked in, tall and smug with his glass of whiskey. Is everything okay? We can hear. Tension. Olivia's voice turned honey-sweet. Emma just came by to ask for money. A lot of money. Nick stared at me like I was a bug that had wandered across his expensive hardwood floor. Oh, he said yikes. Yikes. That was his contribution. I'm leaving, I murmured, heading toward the hallway. But Olivia followed me. No chased me with her heels clicking like punctuation marks. You can't just show up here and expect us to fix your life, she lectured. We worked hard for everything we have. I stopped moving, slowly turned. Didn't I work hard? My voice cracked. Do you think waiting tables while raising a child is easy? Do you think I enjoy begging you like this? Do you think I want to be here? Her lips curled. Well, it certainly looks like you're used to it. The word slapped harder than any physical blow. Something inside me dropped like a bottom falling out. I didn't say anything. I just reached for the doorknob, but a hand landed on my arm, firm cold. Olivia's, you can go out the side door, she said. The guests are in the living room. I don't want them to see this. See this, see me. I jerked my arm back. Let go. She did barely. And then, like the universe was mocking me, her security guard appeared in the hall. A giant man in a black suit. Miss Carter, he asked her. Everything all right? She didn't look at me when she spoke. Please escort my sister out. The world tunneled. My heartbeat filled my ears. Are you serious? I whispered. But Olivia didn't answer. Didn't look at me. Didn't acknowledge the way her decision shattered something fundamental inside me. She just turned and walked back toward her glittering house, filled with pretty people and perfect lies. The guard didn't touch me, but he walked behind me step by humiliating step until I was outside in the cold, dark driveway. I didn't remember walking to my car. I didn't remember sitting down. I only remember gripping the steering wheel so tightly, my hands went numb, my breath coming in shaky bursts. I thought of my son asleep at Mrs. Thompson's house. I thought of the eviction notice taped to my door. I thought of the hospital bill with the red letters stamped across the top. And then I thought of Olivia, of the way she didn't even hesitate to throw me out like garbage. Tears slid down my cheeks hot and relentless. But beneath the heartbreak, beneath the humiliation, something else was forming. Slowly, quietly. A different kind of heat. Anger, not the wild screaming kind. No, this one was calm, focused, sharp as glass. Because in that moment I realized something that should have been obvious years ago. Olivia would never help me. She would never see me as her equal. She would never care about my survival unless it benefited her. And if I wanted to save my life, save my son's life, I would have to do it without her. No, not just without her. In spite of her, as I drove away from her perfect house, a single thought crystallized in my mind, burning like a vow. One day she will regret this night. One day she will look at me and realize she didn't just turn her back on her sister, she created her enemy. People always say, you have to hit rock bottom before you rise. What they never tell you is that rock bottom has a sound. For me, it was the rusted clank of my car door refusing to close properly as I pulled up to the curb outside my apartment complex. It was midnight when I stepped out, wind scraping against my skin like needles. The building looked even sadder than usual. Cracked paint, flickering hallway light, weeds growing through the pavement. I hurried up the stairs praying the eviction notice was still just a threat and not an action already taken. But the moment I turned the corner, my heart dropped. My front door was sealed shut with a thick strip of neon orange tape. Bold black letters screamed, "Notice of eviction, unit locked." It was the kind of sign that didn't care who you were, what you'd been through, or that a 7-year-old boy lived behind that door. It simply announced to the world that you'd failed. I stood there for a long moment, numbness creeping through my body. Then it hit, sharp and sudden. The tears, the panic, the humiliation. All of it poured out at once like a dam cracking open. I pressed my forehead to the door and let the cold wood steady me. I whispered, "I'm sorry, baby," even though my son wasn't there to hear it. Even though he deserved a mother who didn't let things get this bad. Mrs. Thompson, our neighbor, opened her door a crack. "Emma, honey, are you all right?" I wiped my face and forced a smile. "Yeah, I just came to grab a few things." Her eyes softened with worry as she glanced at the eviction tape. "Oh, sweetheart." "I'll be fine," I lied. She hesitated. "Jake's asleep in the guest room." "He was such a sweetheart tonight. You can stay too if you need." Embarrassment burned through me. I wanted to refuse to pretend I had options, but I had none. "That would be— Thank you," I whispered. Inside her apartment, the warmth felt like a hug I didn't deserve. I checked on Jake first. He was curled under a blanket covered with little blue dinosaurs, his small hand tucked under his cheek. His soft breaths were the only thing keeping me from breaking entirely. Mrs. Thompson placed a hand on my arm. "You get some rest. We'll figure something out in the morning." But I didn't sleep, couldn't. Not while the weight of the night pressed on my chest like a boulder. Instead, I sat on the couch, staring at the quiet apartment around me, and replayed everything. Olivia's face, her words, the way she ordered security to escort me out. Every detail stabbed deeper than the last. And then morning came. The next few days blurred into exhaustion. I went to the diner at 6 a.m. for my shift, only to have the manager inform me my hours were being cut again because business is slow. I nodded, like my heart wasn't crashing through my ribs. After work, I parked around the corner from Jake's school because I didn't want anyone to recognize the car I now lived in. I told Jake that staying at Mrs. Thompson's was a fun sleepover week, and he believed me. Because kids trust too easily. Every night after he fell asleep, I sat in the car staring at the ceiling and wondering how my life had become this. Wondering if maybe Olivia had been right. If I really was a failure. If I really did make every wrong choice possible. But every morning when I saw my son smile, I pushed through the fog and whispered to myself, "Get up, keep going, don't quit." Because quitting wasn't an option for mothers. By the third night of sleeping in the car, my back felt like it had been hammered. I stared at my reflection in the rearview mirror. Puffy eyes, tangled hair, skin pale with stress. I barely recognized myself. I needed a miracle, a job, money, anything. And the universe, in its twisted sense of humor, delivered, just not in a way I expected. It happened at the diner on a Wednesday afternoon. The lunch rush had just finished and I was wiping down a counter when the bell above the door jingled. A woman walked in. Mid-30s, wavy auburn hair, bright eyes that sparkled like she genuinely enjoyed being alive, unlike me. She wore a vintage denim jacket over a floral dress, stylish in a way that looked effortless. She chose a booth near the window. I grabbed a menu and approached her. "Hi, welcome to Rosie's. Can I get you something to drink?" She studied my face for half a second. "You look like you've had a long week." I blinked, that obvious. "Only to people who've had those weeks too." She flashed a warm smile. "Coffee, please." I brought her coffee and she pulled out her laptop with stickers all over it. Flowers, cameras, little motivational quotes. She typed quickly, then paused. "I'm Mia, by the way." "Emma." "Well, Emma, thanks for the caffeine rescue. I run a small online vintage clothing shop, Mia's Refines, and I swear I live on coffee more than air." I smiled politely. The kind of smile you give when someone is kind to you, but you're too tired to process kindness. But Mia kept glancing at me. Then she snapped her fingers softly. "Has anyone ever told you that you have a good eye for fashion?" I laughed, actually laughed. "Me. I'm wearing a $5 thrift store shirt. That doesn't mean you don't have taste." She leaned in. "I saw how you folded the napkins on the counter. You matched them by shade. Most people don't notice shade differences unless they have an eye for aesthetics." "That was just habit," I said, embarrassed. "It's instinct," she corrected gently. "And it's useful. I've been drowning in work lately. I could use help. Styling items for photos, coordinating outfits, posting content, that kind of thing." I froze. "Are you offering me a job?" "A part-time one," she shrugged. "Flexible hours, decent pay. You can learn the rest as you go." Hope flickered so fast and bright inside me it almost hurt. "But why me?" I asked quietly. "Because you look like you need a chance," she said simply. And because I trust my gut. No one had trusted their gut on me in a long, long time. I don't have any experience, I warned. I didn't either when I started, she said, but I learned. And you can too. The air felt different, suddenly lighter, as if my lungs finally remembered how to work. When can you start, she asked. Now, I answered before fear could talk me out of it. For the first time in months, I felt something close to hope. Mia's shop wasn't big yet, but it was something. A door cracked open in a world where every other door had slammed shut. I started helping after my diner shifts, sorting through thrifted clothing in her tiny studio apartment. She taught me how to steam garments, how to style outfits that photographed well, how to write captions that made people feel something. To my surprise, I was good at it. Really good. Mia noticed too. You have intuition, she told me one night as we arranged outfits on a rack. The kind that can't be taught. I didn't tell her this, but styling clothing, choosing colors, shapes, textures made me feel alive, creative, capable. Like I was more than just a struggling single mom who couldn't afford rent. Mia also didn't know that between tasks I stepped into the bathroom to cry. Not because I was sad, but because I finally felt something other than fear, a direction. A chance, a way out. But the biggest shift happened one Friday when we posted a photo of an outfit I styled, a vintage leather jacket, paired with a minimalist cream turtleneck and layered gold necklaces. The post exploded. Thousands of likes, hundreds of comments, orders pouring in. Mia stared at the screen, speechless. Emma, I think we just found the shop's voice. The shop's voice I had given something a voice. We celebrated with cheap pizza on her balcony overlooking the city. The air smelled like warm dough and the faint sweetness of summer. We laughed. Something inside me healed. But as the night quieted, Mia leaned against the railing and said, "By the way, did you know there's a fashion networking event next month? Some of the biggest online brands will be there." I froze with a slice halfway to my mouth. Online brands, investors, influencers. People like Olivia. My stomach twisted. "I can get us tickets," Mia added. "We could learn a lot." Learn a lot, or walk straight into the orbit of the woman who threw me out like trash. I stared at the city below, lights flickering like possibilities. Could I really face Olivia again? Could I stand in the same room and pretend I wasn't still bleeding inside? Could I ever be more than the girl she humiliated? A quiet, fierce voice whispered inside me, "Yes, one day, yes. But that day wasn't today." "Let me think about it," I said. Mia smiled. "Take your time." But time was something I didn't have much of, because while I didn't know it yet, success was coming bigger and faster than I could imagine, and with it something darker, a collision, a reckoning, the first sparks of a war I never intended to start. If someone had told me 2 months earlier on, the night I stood outside my taped-up apartment, that my life was about to change, I would have laughed until I cried. Back then, hope felt like a luxury for people with savings accounts and clean credit scores. But success doesn't always knock politely. Sometimes it barges in loud and inconvenient at the exact moment you're still sweeping up the pieces of yourself. It started on a Thursday. I was in Mia's living room surrounded by racks of vintage jackets when my phone buzzed with a notification. I ignored it too, focused on arranging jewelry for a flat lay photo. But then it buzzed again, and then continuously until it sounded like a trapped bee. Emma, Mia called from the couch, her laptop open. "Did you post something?" "No," I said, confused. "Why?" She turned the screen toward me. My photo, the outfit I styled 2 weeks ago, was everywhere. Not just on our page, everywhere. A major fashion influencer, Trinity Blake, had reposted it with the caption, "Obsessed with this vintage look from @Mia's Refines whoever styled this genius." My heart stopped. Trinity had 48 million followers. 4.8 million. I reached for my phone with trembling hands. Notifications blurred past orders. Comments, messages, reposts. My knees actually went weak. I sat down on the floor before I collapsed. "Oh my God," I whispered. "Oh my God," Mia echoed, covering her mouth. "Emma, we're blowing up." We watched the numbers climb like a rocket. The shop sold out in minutes. Wait lists formed. People demanded restocks, asking for more outfits by the mystery stylist. The mystery stylist, me. For the first time in my life, something I created mattered. By the next day, Mia's apartment was chaos in a beautiful, terrifying way. We were packing orders until our fingers cramped. Jake helped by passing tape and stickers, proudly declaring himself assistant manager. For a moment, the world felt right. Then came the email. Emma, Mia screamed from her desk. You need to see this. I rushed over. An agency, Aurora Collective, one of the fastest growing modeling and branding agencies on the West Coast, wanted to feature our shop in a campaign for up-and-coming online brands. My eyes widened. Is this real? Real as the 3 panic attacks I'm about to have, Mia said. They wanted us to send a portfolio of styled outfits. They wanted to credit the stylist. They wanted me. I stared at the screen, unable to breathe. Do I even have a portfolio? You will by tonight, Mia said, grabbing her camera. Get ready. We worked non-stop steaming clothes, building looks, shooting editing until midnight. My body was exhausted, but my soul felt electric. I was doing it. Becoming someone. Becoming more. But with every rise, there is a shadow trailing behind. Mine had a name, Olivia. It happened the next weekend. Mia and I were unloading thrift finds from her car when she opened her email, froze and whispered, "No way." What I asked, she turned her phone around. The upcoming fashion networking gala, the one she'd suggested we attend, had just released their vendor and speaker list. My stomach dropped. There she was, large, bold, annoyingly elegant. Olivia Carter, co-founder Luminary Threads. My sister. The woman who threw me out of her house like trash. The woman who called me a failure in front of her guests. She was one of the panel speakers. My mouth went dry. She's going to be there. Mia said gently, "We don't have to go if you're not ready." But I was tired of not being ready. Tired of being small. Tired of letting Olivia control the gravity around me. "No," I said quietly, "we're going." Mia nodded, trusting me even when I didn't completely trust myself. The following week was a blur of preparation. I poured myself into styling, putting together outfits with an intensity I didn't know I had. Every piece of clothing, every color combination, every accessory, placement felt personal, like proof that I wasn't who Olivia said I was. All the while, the shop kept growing. Orders doubled, then tripled. People messaged asking specifically for Emma's looks. Every time an order came through, I felt a little more whole. We saved enough to get a small shared workspace instead of working from Mia's apartment. It wasn't glamorous. A renovated garage in a downtown building, but to us it felt like a palace. On move-in day, Jake ran through the empty room shouting, "Is this your new job, Mommy?" I smiled, something warm blooming in my chest. "Yeah, buddy, it is." He hugged me tight. "You're amazing." And right then, just hearing those tiny words, I believed it. For the first time in years, I believed it. The night of the networking gala arrived faster than I expected. I spent an hour staring at my reflection in Mia's mirror. I wore a black satin jumpsuit with a gold belt, simple but elegant. My hair, usually thrown into a messy bun, was curled softly around my face. I barely recognized myself. "You look like you own the place," Mia said, grinning. "I feel like I might throw up on the place," I muttered. But we went. The event hall was enormous. Glass walls, modern chandeliers, polished floors that reflected every insecurity I tried to hide. Music hummed softly, and dozens of fashion entrepreneurs mingled with cocktails in hand. I took a breath, then another. I can do this. I belong here. I earned this. We checked in and moved through the crowd. People smiled. Some recognized Mia's shop name. A few even recognized me. "Are you the stylist from that viral post?" one woman asked. "Yes," I said, heart racing, "that's me." But the moment of pride shattered like glass the second a familiar voice drifted through the air. "And our next collection focuses on minimalist luxury blending, sustainable materials with timeless silhouettes." I froze. Olivia. She stood on a small stage being interviewed for a pre-panel livestream. Perfect hair, perfect posture, perfect life. My lungs tightened. She hadn't seen me yet. "Emma," Mia whispered, "we can walk away. You don't have to." "No," I said, surprising us both. "I'm done running." As if summoned by the words, Olivia's eyes swept across the crowd and landed on me. Her expression flickered confusion, shock, then a tightening around her mouth. She saw me. Not as her sister, as the girl she'd kicked out of her house. And now I was standing in the same room she ruled. A storm brewed in her gaze. Recognition mixed with annoyance. The kind of look someone gives a ghost they thought they'd buried. She excused herself from the stage and made her way toward us. Each step was deliberate, controlled, powerful. Just like always. My pulse hammered, but my feet stayed planted. I wasn't the same woman she humiliated. Not anymore. She stopped in front of me, eyes scanning my outfit, my hair, my confidence. "Well," she said, voice colder than ice, I didn't expect to see you here. I lifted my chin. Get used to it. Something sharp flashed in her eyes. Panic anger. I couldn't tell, but I saw it. For the first time in my life, Olivia looked unsure. Before she could respond, a voice behind me called, Emma. Hi. Are you the stylist from Mia's Refines? I've been wanting to meet you. A group of designers and influencers surrounded me, shaking my hand, complimenting my work. And Olivia watched, silent, stiff lips pressed thin. In that moment, under the warm chandelier light, surrounded by people who saw value in me, I realized something monumental. Olivia wasn't the sun anymore. Her gravity no longer dictated my orbit. I wasn't beneath her. I wasn't behind her. I wasn't begging. I was rising. And rising scares the people who expect you to stay low. But the night was far from over. The universe had another twist waiting, one that would change everything. Because while Olivia glared at me across the room, I overheard two designers whispering about her company. Have you seen the article draft going around? Something's off about Luminary Thread's labor practices. My chest tightened. A rumor. A scandal, a crack in Olivia's perfect foundation, and I felt it, like the first tremor before an earthquake. Fate was shifting, lines were being drawn, and whether Olivia knew it or not, we were on a collision course. Rumors are strange creatures. They start as whispers, small, harmless, forgettable. But if you get close enough, you hear the warning beneath the softness. And that night at the gala, the whispers about Olivia's company were everywhere. I didn't mean to listen. I wasn't seeking revenge, not yet. But when someone you love and hate has spent years holding power over you, you start to notice the tremors before the fall. It was after I had shaken my last hand of the evening when the crowd thinned and the music softened. I was sipping sparkling water from a flute glass when two designers walked past, their voices low but hurried. The warehouse in Nevada, no permits. Underpaying contractors. If this leaks Luminary Threads is screwed. My fingers tightened around the glass so hard I thought it might crack. Colors blurred in front of me as adrenaline rushed through my veins. No permits. Underpaid contractors. Warehouse violations. My brain sprinted through every memory of Olivia bragging about her company's growth, about outsourcing smart, about streamlining costs. At the time, I'd thought she was just showing off. Now I wondered what she had sacrificed to build her empire and who she had stepped on along the way. I tried to focus on Mia, who was chatting with a brand rep, but my ears kept catching bits of conversations as people drifted by. Heard someone's collecting receipts. Labor laws, messy situation. If Olivia doesn't fix this fast, it'll blow up. I didn't belong in those circles yet. Every whisper felt aimed at me. A warning, a temptation, a door opening. But then, as if the universe wanted to twist the knife, I saw Olivia standing alone near the balcony doors. Her expression tight, eyes darting like she was listening too. She'd heard the rumors too. She looked rattled. For the first time in my life, Olivia Carter, the unshakable, perfect diamond hard. Olivia looked afraid, and that should have satisfied me. It should have made me feel vindicated. Instead, I felt a tug of war inside myself. Part of me, the part that still remembered learning to braid hair together on our childhood porch, wanted to walk over and ask if she was okay. But the other part, the part she had humiliated, thrown out, dismissed as worthless, wanted to watch her crumble. I didn't approach her, not then, but she approached me. Emma, she said sharply, heels stabbing the floor like punctuation marks. I turned slowly. What? We need to talk. I almost laughed. Now you want to talk? Her jaw clenched. Obviously not here. But I wasn't in the mood to be commanded. Not tonight. Not ever again. No, I said, we don't need to talk. Her nostrils flared. Emma, something is happening and it's not my problem. The look she gave me was a mixture of shock and disbelief, like she couldn't fathom I'd dare cut her off. You're my sister, she said quietly. That single word, sister, hit me square in the chest. I almost believed her, almost. But then I remembered her voice the night she threw me out. I'm not your bank. I remembered her telling her guard to escort me out like I was a stain on her floors. I remembered the coldness. My voice turned to ice. You remembered that now. Interesting. She took a breath, struggling. Olivia never struggled, Emma. Please, not here. But before either of us could say another word, a photographer approached with a small group. Olivia, can we get a quote for the magazine and a photo? Olivia straightened instantly. The fear vanished from her face like it had never existed. Her smile snapped into place, bright and flawless. The switch was so fast it made my stomach twist. She was an actress, always had been. She didn't look at me again. And in that moment, watching her pose for photos while her empire quietly burned behind her, I realized something. If the universe wanted to pull her crown down, I didn't have to lift a finger. She was already cracking. 3 days later, the crack spread. It was a Sunday afternoon when I got the call. I was helping Mia reorganize the new office space. Jake coloring dinosaurs in the corner when my phone vibrated. Unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something made me answer. Hello. At first, nothing, just breathing. Then a shaky voice. Emma. I froze. Yes, this is Diego. I used to work at Luminary Threads. I got your number from someone at the gala. My heart jumped to my throat. What do you want? He inhaled sharply like he was steadying himself. I heard you're connected to Olivia Carter. Connected if only he knew. Yes, I said cautiously. I need to talk to someone, he whispered. Someone not in the company. Someone who won't twist my words. What is this about? A pause. And then, they're lying. Olivia. Nick. The whole management team. The Nevada facility. Everything is illegal. People are getting hurt. Working overtime without pay. They're hiding it. And now there's an investigation coming. My blood ran cold. Why are you calling me? I asked. Because you're not like them, he said. And someone told me you might care enough to listen. Care? What a strange word to use for me about my sister's crimes. I have evidence, he continued. Documents, photos, emails. If this goes public, the company will collapse, and Olivia. He didn't finish. He didn't have to. Olivia would be ruined. Something inside me twisted. Part fear, part temptation, part justice. Why not go to the press? I asked. I tried. They won't move without more. And I'm scared. They threaten people who spoke up before. I can't do it alone. So why me? Because you're not afraid of Olivia. If only he knew how wrong he was and how right. I exhaled slowly. Where are you? He gave me an address. A rundown coffee shop on the outskirts of the city. I'll be there in an hour, I said. As I hung up, Mia looked over from her desk. Uh-oh, I know that face. What face? I asked. The I'm about to do something wild but morally justified face? I didn't deny it. She came closer, lowering her voice. This is about your sister, isn't it? I nodded. Emma, be careful. I will. But we both knew I wouldn't. The coffee shop smelled like burnt espresso and old newspapers. Diego sat in a corner booth. A thin young man with tired eyes and a bandage on his hand. Thank you for coming, he said as I slid into the seat. Show me, I said. He opened a folder and my world tipped. Invoices for illegally cheap labor. Emails from upper management telling staff to falsify reports. Photos of cramped, unsafe working conditions. Contracts that skirted federal regulations. At the bottom, an email chain with Olivia CC'd on every message. Every single one. She knew, I whispered. She knew everything. Diego's face crumpled. We tried to tell her. She said it was standard practice. Standard practice, my sister. The one who flaunted her success like righteousness. I felt nauseous. What are you going to do? Diego asked softly. What was I going to do? Expose her, destroy her, save her. I had no idea. All I knew was this. The power dynamic between us had shifted forever. Olivia wasn't untouchable. And for the first time in my life, I held something she wanted. Something she feared. I gathered the documents carefully. Thank you. I'll take it from here. As I walked out of the coffee shop, the weight of the folder felt heavier than any bag I'd ever carried. Its edges dug into my palms like teeth. By the time I reached my car, one truth burned through my mind. I now held my sister's downfall in my hands, and I didn't know whether that made me righteous or dangerous. If this story gave you chills, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. There are countless real-life betrayals, twists, and revenge stories waiting for you in the next episodes. I used to think life-changing moments always arrived with fireworks or dramatic music, but sometimes they slip in quietly, like a knife between ribs. The night after meeting Diego, I sat alone in the small workspace I shared with Mia. The folder of evidence lying on the table like a living thing. Jake had gone home with Mrs. Thompson for a sleepover and Mia had left an hour earlier. The silence felt thick, suffocating. I opened the folder again. Every page stabbed deeper. Emails, photos, reports. Proof that Olivia wasn't just ruthless, she was complicit. I pressed my palms to my eyes. I wanted to be rational. I wanted to be fair. I wanted to be the girl who once braided her sister's hair and believed the best in her. But every time I tried to justify Olivia's choices, I heard her voice in my head. I'm not your bank. It looks like you're used to begging escort her out. Those words had carved wounds I was still stitching shut. And now, fate had laid her future in my hands. A phone buzzed, pulling me out of my spiral. My stomach dropped when I saw the name. Olivia. I stared at the screen until it stopped vibrating. 30 seconds later, a text came through. We need to talk, it's urgent. I didn't answer. 2 minutes later, Emma, please. The please shook me more than the rumors or the documents Olivia didn't say. Please, not even to God. And then, I know you've heard things. Please meet me. I'll come wherever you want. Just name a place. I typed before I could think. Downtown cafe, 1 hour. She arrived early. I spotted her through the window before I even walked in, sitting at a corner table. Fingers tapping against her coffee cup, eyes flicking toward the door every few seconds. She looked different. Not polished, not composed. Vulnerable. It was disorienting. When I entered, she stood so quickly, her chair scraped the floor. Emma, I sat across from her, arms crossed. Talk. She took a breath, steadying herself. You've heard the rumors. They're not rumors, I said. They're facts. Her eyes widened. Where did you... Does it matter? Her composure faltered. Emma, you don't understand how business works. Sometimes lines blur. Sometimes decisions aren't black and white. You mean sometimes decisions are illegal? She flinched. I pushed the folder toward her. She didn't open it, but her eyes locked on it like she recognized the shape of doom. Emma, she whispered, this could destroy everything. Years of work, hundreds of jobs, the reputation Nick and I built. I know. Then you know what's at stake. My entire career, the company, Your pride, I finished. Silence snapped between us like a live wire. Her voice trembled. If this gets out, I could lose everything. There it was. Not guilt, not remorse. Fear. It was the first honest expression I'd seen on her in years. I leaned back. Why should I care? You didn't care when I was losing my home? When I begged you for help? That was different, she said sharply. How? Because... She stopped, swallowed, then tried again. Because I thought you needed to hear the truth. You were drowning, Emma. You kept making messy choices. And I was tired, so tired of fixing everything for you. I stared at her. Fixing, fixing. My laugh was small and bitter. You never fixed anything for me. Olivia, you fixed your image. You fixed your convenience. You fixed the version of the family you wanted people to see. Her face tightened. That's not fair. I came to you for help and you humiliated me. Her voice cracked for the first time I know. That surprised me more than anything. She blinked fast, breathing shallow. I know I was cruel. I know I shouldn't have said what I said. I replay that night every day, a confession too late, too heavy. But Emma, she continued, gripping the table edge. This could ruin me. Please, you're my sister. Help me. I didn't respond immediately. I didn't trust my voice. She leaned in, whispering like she was afraid the walls were listening. Tell me what you want. Money, a partnership, a position at the company, anything. Just don't give this to the press. I stared at her. This woman, this powerful, unstoppable force was finally kneeling, not physically but emotionally. She was the closest she'd ever come to breaking, and I had the power to shatter her. For a moment, the darkness in me rose like a tide. I imagined her mugshot on headlines, her empire collapsing, her humiliation mirroring mine, justice, revenge, symmetry. But then I looked at her trembling hands, the fear in her eyes, the cracks in her voice, and something inside me asked, if you destroy her, will you heal or just become her? I closed my eyes for a second and inhaled. When I opened them, I had my answer. I'm not giving this to the press, I said quietly. She sagged in relief. Thank you, Emma. But I'm also not bearing it. Her breath caught. What does that mean? It means you're going to fix it, I said. Publicly, completely. You're going to shut down the illegal warehouse, compensate the workers, renegotiate honest contracts, and fire everyone involved. Her lips parted, Emma. And you're going to do it before the investigation hits. Not because you're caught, but because it's the right thing to do. She stared at me speechless. You're going to save your company. I continued, by being the person I always hoped you were. Silence. Why are you doing this? She finally whispered. You could destroy me. You have every reason to. I didn't look away. Because I'm not you, I said. And because Jake deserves a family that isn't poisoned by revenge. Her eyes glistened. I stood to leave. But before I could walk away, Olivia grabbed my hand, her voice barely audible. I'm sorry. The words shook loose something in my chest. I didn't know I'd been holding for years. I nodded once, fix it, Olivia. Then we'll see what happens next. Then I walked out into the cold air, the city buzzing around me, the folder still under my arm. I'd expected to feel powerful, victorious, satisfied. Instead, I felt something else. Free. Not because Olivia was saved or ruined, not because I won or lost, but because for the first time in my life, I chose myself without choosing destruction. My past no longer owned me. My sister no longer defined me. And pride, hers and mine, no longer controlled me. As I lifted my face to the night sky, the lights of the city reflecting in my eyes, I felt a quiet certainty settle in my bones. This was not the end of our story. It was the beginning of mine.